It's that time of year again, and despite the fact that I'm actually kind of shocked if anyone is still watching my series at this point, we've still got a Halloween special to do. So here we are. Grab your candy corn and your caramel apples, because it's time to get spoopy for the 4th annual Swholloween. Like most people on Halloween, I like to turn my TV over to ABC Freeform.
Fucking dumb.
And check out their great 13 nights of Halloween programming throughout the week. Let's just take a peek at the lineup and... oh, great. Now, call me crazy, but I don't remember Hocus Pocus as this be-all, end-all Halloween treasure that everyone makes it out to be. It's apparently such a staple of Halloween that they're literally playing it all day. That day, which is maybe just a subconscious plea to have it be regulated to distant background noise like it deserves, because I don't care who you are, you're not watching one movie all day on a Tuesday. But it's not just that. They're playing Hocus Pocus a total of 14 times, not including the marathon on the 13 nights of Halloween. 14 out of 13 nights. That means that some nights it's playing twice. And really, I don't think this movie is at all deserving the claim it has as the best Halloween movie. And if you couldn't tell by the title of the video, that's exactly what I'm going to explain here today. So the movie begins with a score that I honestly thought would have come out of a Tim Burton Batman movie, but here it is. Maybe Danny Elfman should sue. We open on what looks like to be the cleanest kid in all of colonial America, because look at how well groomed that hair is. There's no way that his 1 bath a month limit is keeping that mane in check. Also, apparently he's in like a cult or something, because literally everyone I've seen so far is wearing the same shirt. No, but what's really going on here is that the local witches in the woods have kidnapped this kid's little sister into their hut, and in order to try to suck the life force out of her to become young and beautiful and live forever, or something. This kid tries to save his sister, but is ultimately foiled by the witches. You know, Emperor Palpatine, if you had lightning magic this whole time, why did you wait until just now to use it? The witches are successful, and they suck the life force out of her, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense why, because they literally cast a spell on Thackeray, the kid over here, to make him live forever, so why can't they just do that to themselves? I don't know. Anyway, the real meat of this story picks up as we cut to modern day, and this crazy old lady of a teacher is teaching them what I assume is, I don't know, what is that, history class? She's talking about, like witches and, like, town folklore and, like, I mean, I don't know. I like to imagine that this was just math class and Miss Olin over here just is off her meds again. Like, what's 2 plus 2? I don't know, witches. So the main character, whose entire California laid-back, tie-dye backstory is so stupid it's given to us in one sentence.
Your California laid-back, tie-dye point of view?
He doesn't believe in this whole witch nonsense because he's #woke.
Halloween was invented by the candy companies. It's a conspiracy.
It just so happens that Halloween is based on the ancient feast called All Hallows Eve. It's the one night of the year where the spirits of the dead can return to Earth.
What the fuck are you cheering her like she just royally owned him? She just stated some common factoid about Halloween that you can look up on Wikipedia, and you're treating it like she handed his ass to him on a silver platter with some epic burn. And then he just gives her his phone number, like, in the middle of class? How embarrassing do you have to be in one day? Sit down. So yeah, this is Max. He just conveniently moved here no more than a week before Halloween, which is apparently a perfectly great time to move, you know, just in the middle of the school year, uproot your kids, who gives a fuck? He's having a hard time being the new kid, and he's getting picked on by the town bullies because, hey, this is a Disney picture. Of course he is.
Whoa. Check out the new cross trainers.
Whoa, check out the product placement. Which I think it's funny how this movie tries to convince you that these two idiots are the bullies and not totally the ones who would normally be getting bullied in school. Look, the kid shaved his new nickname on the back of his head. I went to public school in the Northeast, okay? This kid would have been torn to shreds for that haircut. So anyway, Max has to take his little sister out trick-or-treating that night, who, by the way, yes, that is a very young Thora Birch, very much pre-American Beauty. While they're out, they run into his school crush, Allison, and here it is, we get the movie's weird obsession with teenage sexuality. Danny, Max's sister, starts talking to Allison about her brother's interest in yabos.
What do you call them, Max? Yabos?
Like, I don't quite understand the point that this movie likes to make, but it takes a lot of time to talk about the fact that Max, a 15-year-old kid, is a virgin, and it's sort of treated like a shameful thing. Like, okay, get this. The main part of the plot picks up just about at the end of the second act when Max decides that he, Allison, and Danny should all go to the witch's old house, which is now a museum, to have a little Halloween fun. When they're there, Max decides, for really no good reason at all, that he's going to light this spooky candle, which the witch is cursed so that if a virgin lights the candle, their spirits can return from the grave. And so the whole virginity thing just becomes a running gag. Like, look at this dude. Look at this dude impersonating a fucking police officer. I don't care how good your costume is. That's fucking illegal.
Are you a virgin?
Yeah.
Really?
Look, I'll get it tattooed on my forehead, okay?
What the fuck? Like, look, what? Are you a virgin? I don't know, sir. That's fucking spooky. Stop talking to me this way. Stranger danger. I don't want to talk to you. So anyway, the Sanderson sisters are back, and they've got all of Halloween night to try and eat as many children's life forces as they can to become immortal, else they die permanently. With this in mind, they just sort of go sauntering off like... Our heroes run into a graveyard because I guess the witches can't touch hollow ground or something, so instead they fly over with their brooms, and they reanimate this corpse. And he basically does nothing the whole movie. In fact, the culmination of his plotline is that just once that he finally gets the threads ripped off of his mouth so he can speak, he just trashes Bette Midler, like, just joins the kid's side. Like, whatever, I don't give a fuck. Fuck you, old redheaded bitch.
Wench. Trollop, you buck-toothed, mop-riding firefly from hell! Ah! I've waited centuries to say that.
So the kids make their way to the adult town Halloween party, and they try to warn them about the impending danger. Of course, the adults, like in all children's movies, are oblivious to their kids' worries, not even so much as leaving the party to see why both of their children are freaking out about the same thing. Like, Jesus Christ, Mom and Dad, Gilla. The witches make their way to the party, and Max tries to warn everyone by jumping on stage and shouting. This, of course, like any logical interaction, leads to Bette Midler singing a rendition of I Put a Spell on You, to which the backup band just totally starts playing along at all the right cues like they fucking rehearsed it. I guess you could argue that she's like using magic to make all this happen, but you also have to ask, what purpose does this scene serve to the greater narrative? I mean, again, you can argue that it's also implied that their singing voices have some sort of possessive powers to hypnotize the audience. We kind of get a hint of that at the beginning of the movie, but what's really the point of that? Clearly the townsfolk think you're just women in costumes, as you've already came to this realization not but a scene ago that Halloween is just a holiday to dress up. This scene is filler. It's fun filler, don't get me wrong, but it's still nothing but filler. There are a lot of scenes that have been stretched to their limit when they try to convey something that could be accomplished in just a few sentences. The witches don't understand technology and the customs of the 21st century. I don't need a whole scene dedicated to them riding a bus to explain that. The sisters get their powers from Satan. I don't need a scene where they mistake a man dressed as Satan as the real thing and then spend 5 whole minutes in his house. I don't need a scene of the sisters singing, I put a spell on you to hypnotize the adults when all they really had to do was say, hey, we're dressed as witches on Halloween, we'll blend right in. The main problem I have with this movie is just how much scene padding there is. It feels like someone had a script for like a pretty good episode of like the Goosebumps TV show, but then they said, well, let's make it a feature. And then they realized they didn't have enough material to fill a whole hour and a half. Anyway, at around the 1 hour mark, the kids throw the witches into a kiln and burn them, and they think they've killed them because this is a children's movie. Holy shit, that's dark. So later that night, they decide to open the book to try and find a spell to help their immortal cat friend, but obviously the witches aren't dead, so they take to the skies to retrieve their book. With it back, they rebrew their potion and lure all the children in town to their hut to take their life force. I'm sorry. Did I say all the children? I'm in about 20 extras a little to the left. They're all on a street. You can see the end. That's where we ran out of kids. Ran out of kids right there. Max steals his parents' car and uses the headlights to trick the witches into thinking it's daylight, so they lay down and pretend to be dead for some reason. And it just kind of works. Like, they're that fucking dramatic that they're like, oh, it's fucking the sun. Literally, the reason that they don't just take any of these children that they've lured to their house to take their life force and live forever is because of this one fucking child they have such petty jealousy for. Like, you have all of these kids. Well, all right, sorry, you have the 20 or so kids that we could hire. You have 20 or so kids that we got in your front yard. They're just waiting. They're ripe. They're fresh. Their life forces are delicious. Suck it up like Capri Sun, and you fucking... Fuck you!
Hello there! Let me see your driver's permit.
Oh, now they're just spouting one-liners? Like, this bitch has been dead for 300 years. How does she even know what a driver's permit is? She just learned what a bus was no more than a few hours ago, and she already is making fucking lines like she's the goddamn Terminator? Fuck off! They go back to the graveyard, hide Danny in a grave, which she just leaves anyway, put a circle of salt around her, and then fend off the witches. Bette Midler ends up grabbing Danny, but the cat jumps at the last second, knocking the potion from her hand and onto the ground, where it can break and be wasted forever. Or Max just catches it. He catches the vial of potion, as in the thing that the witch was using to try and steal the life force from his sister. He saw her try to use it, and he catches it instead of letting it break. The witches can't do jack shit about their immortality without that potion, and you catch it. And you keep it safe for them. What are you doing? Like, yeah, a little later he uses it as like a bargaining tool. He says, put her down or I'll smash it. But like, she clearly reacts with, well, fine, smash it, and then the girl dies. If you just let it break on its own, you could have stopped the evil plan and still had time to try and save your sister. Instead, now you're in a standoff with a witch who's minutes away from turning to dust. Look, you fell from that very same height, and you didn't die. You didn't even break a limb. Let her drop your stupid fucking sister and smash the potion on the ground. Kill her now and save yourself the trouble. So clearly, he drinks it. I guess as an act of self-sacrifice for his sister, I don't know. I think that was the theme of the movie. The whole point is that this is when the witches are dumb, and they turn to stone, and that they explode. Max and Danny learn about the importance of family or some shit. The zombie does fuck all. Allison and Max probably go get laid, and Max isn't a virgin anymore, and then the cat spirit walks off into the afterlife with his own little sister, and in the movie's truest of fashions, gets the last line about Max being a virgin.
Sorry, Emily. I had to wait 300 years for a virgin to light a candle.
So yeah, that's Hocus Pocus. And honestly, as you can tell, not a whole lot actually happens. It's very much a and-then script. You know, the kids go to school, and then they go trick-or-treating, and then they go to the witch's house, and then. All of the scenes happen in a chronology, sure, but they don't add up to much in the end. There's no payoff. Nothing ever comes back into play, and none of the characters ever really learn a whole lot from the whole encounter. I mean, yes, admittedly, Max learns to be nicer to his little sister, as you never know when you might lose her, but that's such a cookie-cutter ending, and he only learns it because another character tells him he should. It didn't happen to him. He didn't actually experience anything that would make him realize what it would be like for her to be gone. He just says, okay, yeah, you're right. I should be nice to her. Woohoo! So let's go back to the 13 Nights of Halloween again and take a real quick look at a movie that has very closely related themes, so much so that I think we can compare and contrast. That movie is Paranorman, a movie that only played exactly 3 times for the 13 Nights of Halloween, compared to the bloated 14 Hocus Pocuses. Paranorman is also about a witch and her curse to come back from the dead. It also features zombies and magic, and it takes place on Halloween. It's also about a young teenager who's been bullied and is an outcast in his school, and now he and a band of friends and his sister are able to come together to stop the curse and save the town. So then what's the difference? Well, Paranorman is actually about characters. Right off the bat, we establish Norman as an ordinary kid with extraordinary interests. He likes horror movies and zombies and stuff. His parents don't understand what he's going through, and he's having trouble with bullies and making friends. There's also this little thing where he talks to fucking ghosts, but it's done very well. It's not a gimmick or a crutch to the film. The talking to the ghosts is just a tangible metaphor for what makes Norman special and why the town is just not sure how to handle that. See, the thing Paranorman does so well is that the first act of the movie is entirely focused on understanding who Norman is and the world he lives in. He's more complicated than just a sentence worth of exposition and a cliche about being the new kid in town. The actual conflict about the witch and Paranorman and her curse doesn't really pick up until about the 40-minute mark, and up until that point we've had nothing but exclusive time spent with our protagonist and the characters. We learn about who they are, about their interests, about their motivations, what they do in their daily lives, and we also get the backstory to the major plot as it progresses. It's also further tied into the main theme of the film. It's all about being isolated from the norm and how society is afraid of what it doesn't understand. It's an allegory for human behavior that a lot of outcasted people can relate to. It's about the dangers of being complacent to the treatment of the others and viewing people as others. The zombies that are brought back by the witch are attacked by the townsfolk for no reason other than they're zombies. The town reacts to them by making up their own reality instead of seeing what's actually happening. The reason the witch was executed in the first place to create the curse was because the original townsfolk didn't understand her and were afraid of her. All of the movie is in service of the narrative. Every scene establishes either something about the characters or further progresses the plot and the themes of the film with the witch's curse. Hocus Pocus feels really more like an excuse to be goofy and nothing more. There's nothing really wrong with that, sure. I understand for most people it's just a guilty pleasure movie, but is it really the greatest Halloween movie of all time? I mean, technically speaking, it's a well-made film. There's atmosphere to the whole thing, a really good vibe of what Halloween feels like for a kid. Everything in the town is overblown, a Halloween extravaganza. Every house is decorated. There's a big party in the middle of town that apparently a lot of people go to. There's a really crisp fall weather about the whole movie. It's well lit, and it isn't afraid to use wildly bright greens and purples and reds to accent moments. But really, should we be playing it all fucking day? The movie The Christmas Story is a movie that comes to mind in this particular situation. We have a tradition where we play this movie on loop all day on Christmas so that no one will miss a screening. Funnily enough, though, the movie is actually about something. I mean, sure, it's pure nostalgia trip that represents what we remember the ideal Christmas to be, but it's also a coming-of-age story about a kid growing up. It has substance, and it's a really great Christmas movie. It deserves its all-day marathon tradition. But in my opinion, Hocus Pocus is riding entirely on its own nostalgia. The audience who remembers it likes it purely for the fact that they saw it growing up, and that it has a very idealized version of what Halloween is within its scenes. But it's just fluff. It's a spectacle piece with the most generic characterizations possible within the most cliché plot available. It's serviceable, but at what cost? I implore you, if you like Hocus Pocus and have never seen Paranorman, give that one a go. It was made by the same people who made Coraline, and it's a style of stop-motion animation is really a fantastically beautiful film in a world that's forgotten traditional forms of animation and has basically gone entirely CG. Listen, it's perfectly fine if you like Hocus Pocus. You're allowed to like what you like, but you can't on good faith argue that it's the definitive Halloween classic. It's a movie without bite. I mean, sure, it's a Disney movie that talks about teenage sexuality a lot for some fucking reason, but it's still a PG children's movie without a whole lot of story. Paranorman, my counter movie, has a lot more going for it. It's got actual horror elements, for one thing. There are a few legitimately good scares throughout this movie. Plus, it's hilariously written, with lovable characters and charming messages about acceptance and tolerance. I mean, here, just look at this review I found on Common Sense Media, written about the time the movie came out by some angry soccer mom. Scariness was not my concern one bit in this movie, even though there were jumpy parts. There was one part when a guy said, "Psst," from behind a statue to call a kid over, and the other kids say, "Hey, that guy just pissed at you." At the end, the boy that the sister's been pining over, blatantly looking him over, teenage flirting, etc., mentions his boyfriend. Now, I have no problems whatsoever with homosexuality, the gays, and have mentioned it briefly with our kids. I just wish they could have left out jokes like that in a movie geared towards younger kids. I always talk with my kids about the movies we see and discuss anything that would be an issue, so then why are you writing this review? What the fuck is the point? Like, if you talked to them about it, if you discussed it, then didn't the movie do its job? Didn't the movie bring up things that you fucking didn't fucking want to talk about, you piece of fucking shit? We saw it in 2D. Good for you. All in all, Hocus Pocus is just kind of dumb. Like, really, really dumb. Watch better Halloween movies. And for Christ's sake, Freeform, stop jerking off Tim Burton's spooky dicks, you piece of
Spooky, scary skeletons and shivers down your spine. Shrieking skulls will shock your soul, seal your doom tonight. Spooky, scary skeletons speak with such a screech. You'll shake and shudder in surprise when you hear these zombies shriek. We're so sorry, skeletons, you're so misunderstood. You only